Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Welcome to another episode of Frugal Points, the series where I drive in my car and talk about the philosophical side of points and miles. Let's talk a little more about why using cents per point as a method of determining value is somewhere between limited and just plain silly. I did a previous video called A Better Way Than Cents Per Point, and while I'm not opposed to calculating the cents per point on any type of travel redemption, I do it. It's fun. It gives you something of a very general baseline. It certainly does have its limitations. Let's think about my recent trip to the United Kingdom and Sweden, and I'm going to use the Swedish example, staying in the Clarion Hotel Oden in Gothenburg, Sweden. And this is part of what until recently was known as the Nordic Choice Hotels. Now they have rebranded themselves as Strawberry Hotels, and these are basically the hotels that partner with Choice in countries like Iceland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. If it expands beyond that, I'm not familiar with it, and I apologize. Regardless, so we stayed 3 nights in the Hotel Oden, and it was 10,000 choice points per night per room. We initially booked 2 rooms, and when we got there, for a variety of reasons, we ended up staying in only 1 room with 4 beds instead of 2 rooms with 2 beds each. That's kind of a long story for another video. But ultimately, we could have gotten by with booking just 1 room. So that's 10,000 choice points per night. I'm not 100% sure what the exact cost was, but just for reference, I believe it was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 per night. So that's 2 cents per point in terms of choice points. And we all know you can transfer your points from Citigroup, such as the City Premier card, to Choice Hotels at a 1-to-2 ratio. So 1 City point becomes 2 choice points. So if it's 2 cents per point on the choice side of things, that would be 4 cents per point on the city side of things. But there's more than that you got to factor in as well. First of all, you got to factor in taxes. Sweden has one of the highest VAT taxes, value-added taxes, in Europe. I believe it's somewhere around 25%. And I don't remember researching it carefully, and I'm in my car right now, but I'm pretty sure that applies to hotel stays. If not, they have some sort of tax, and it's fairly high. So you got to really mark things up to take that into consideration. How much would that have been? I don't know, probably pushing $50, I would speculate. Another factor is that hotel included a free breakfast and a free supper, a free evening meal. They also had a free fika, which is their equivalent of tea time. We were only able to take advantage of that once. It was basically like a snack type coffee cake thing. But that evening meal was very plenteous. It was very frugal in the sense of you get a free meal, and it was a full-blown meal. This wasn't just some sort of corner-cutting measure. Now, we never ate out during the evening in Sweden because we had those free meals. Didn't get there in time to enjoy that Friday night, unfortunately, but Saturday night and Sunday night we did. So I'll just call the breakfast a break-even or a moot point because lots of hotels have free breakfast. But let's think of how much extra value that free supper got us. Just looking around at some various websites and things, if we had gone to a restaurant, we probably would have been paying something like say 200 Swedish kroner per plate. And using really rough math, a kroner is worth about 1/10 of a US dollar. So to do the conversion, you just move the decimal 1 to the right, or 1 to the left, to go from Swedish to American currency. In other words, 200 Swedish kroner would be about 20 bucks. So about 20 bucks per person, family of 4, that's 100 bucks. But then you gotta, you know, either leave a tip or have a service charge, one of the two. I did find in England they frequently added 10% automatically. And then you'd have that value-added tax of 25%, and that'd be another 25 bucks. So 25 plus, you know, the 10% tip on that's going to be 12-ish, $137. Say we got some extra dessert or something. Just for the sake of back of the napkin math, let's just round it up to 150. So it saved us that. Let's add in another 50 bucks for those taxes, and basically each night of the reservation that we were able to take advantage of it, you know, you've got a $200 room fee, but you've also got $50 in tax savings and $150 in a meal savings. That seems almost unbelievable. It is a good deal, but we're talking basically the equivalent of 400 bucks in value. At the end of every video, I say, may your spending be frugal. That is definitely some frugal spending, and I like to talk about epic value. That is some epic value. So now let's use the figure of $400 a night equivalent that would have come out of our pocket, but I only paid 10,000 choice points per night. So now we're talking 4 points per dollar on the choice side of things, and 8 points per dollar on the city side of things. So I started this video by saying there's a limit to cents per point, and there is, and then I just gave you a cents per point example that was much better than the original one. I guess what I'm saying is if you just look at the room rate to determine cents per point, sometimes there's a lot more than that that goes into it. So, you know, think about the meals that it gets you and those kind of things. That's another realization that I had on this trip, my first time flying internationally, is there's a lot more to a business class seat on a transatlantic flight than just a nice seat. You get all kinds of meals. So like, you know, we had a trip to Amsterdam from Minneapolis, and we got a supper and a breakfast. Then we had a layover, and then we went on to London on a short 1-hour flight. Even on that short 1-hour flight, we got a meal on the plane. Now it was a small plane, like a 737 or an Embraer jet, something like that. So it was just a little boxed meal, but it was a meal. And then take into account the lounges. Man, we hit those lounges hard. We milked them for all they were worth. We had so many meals in lounges and snacks and everything. Based on what you would have in an airport restaurant, I would say easily we ate 50 bucks per person worth of food and snacks and drinks. So that's another 200 bucks. You know, and plus the meals on the plane, we're probably talking 300 bucks per person worth of food for a full day of traveling in business class. That makes the taxes and fees, which can be anywhere from like 200 to 500, seem a little more palatable. So I did veer a little bit from the original topic, but hopefully these thoughts were helpful, at least in the generic and very general sense. Call it flow of thought. Put a comment down below and ask me any questions. I'll try my best to personally answer them. And if you've had any cases where cents per point is a lot more than just the room rate or the cost of what the flight would have been, let me know. I'd be glad to hear about it. As always, may your spending be frugal, and may your points be plenteous. Thanks for watching.